She's reshuffled her top team and brought back a heavyweight. Sir James Cleverly returns to Kemi Badenoch's front bench as Shadow Housing Secretary, going head-to-head with Angela Rayner.
So will the appointment help reverse the Tories' fortunes in the face of the ever-growing threat from Nigel Farage's Reform Party? And Sir James Cleverly joins us now from Westminster. James Cleverly, first of all, congratulations on your return to the Shadow Cabinet in this role. Just to clarify, so we understand from the beginning what is happening, Angela Rayner is the Secretary of State for Housing and Communities. She's also the Deputy Prime Minister. She has 25 staff, I think, now being gathered in the Cabinet Office for that role. She deputises for the Prime Minister as Deputy Prime Minister in PMQs. Are you shadowing that whole job? Are you now the Deputy Prime Minister in shadow? Will you always deputise for her? Are you essentially the shadow Deputy Prime Minister?
No, I'm the Shadow Housing Secretary. In opposition, structures are different and requirements are different. And in terms of Deputy Prime Minister, I think that's a job title rather than a job, and an excuse to have a even more bloated civil service hierarchy at the centre of Westminster. Okay. And I think that is a reflection on how Angela Rayner has very successfully outmanoeuvred Keir Starmer at every turn and has accumulated authority and power at the heart of government. And I don't feel the need to shadow that cumbersome bureaucracy. Okay. My job is about highlighting her failure and the Labour government's failure to deliver on their promise to the British people, which is to build homes that British people can live in. That's
very clear. And so you aren't necessarily deputising with Angela Rayner at Prime Minister's questions if the Prime Minister is away. Just one other thing, just to clarify from the outset. You, in the election last year, were very clear that you thought the UK should not leave the European Convention on Human Rights. A couple of weeks ago, you were very critical of people who were Luddites moving away from net zero commitments. Kemi Badenoch, your leader, has leaned towards leaving the ECHR. She has been pulling away from those net zero commitments. Are you now coming into line with her policy on climate change and on ECHR?
Well, firstly, on net zero, I didn't give a speech on net zero. I find it remarkably poor reporting. A whole speech, I didn't mention net zero once. I was talking about the UK being a leader in technology and an exporter in technology, and making sure that we recognise that, as well as there being an environmental imperative for those green energy technologies, there's a very powerful commercial incentive. I didn't mention net zero once. And I have said subsequently that the commitments we made about net zero were made before Russia's invasion of Ukraine, before the current situation with regard to hyper-competitive energy markets and the energy price spike. So I've said that those commitments, the timescale we put forward, those are no longer achievable. And so Kim and I are on the same page on that one.
And on the European Convention, are you aligned on that? Are you aligned on leaving the ECHR if that's what her review recommends?
And on the ECHR, there is a review. And the point that I've made is that where judges try to subvert the decision of elected politicians using the ECHR as an excuse, if we don't address that, then leaving the ECHR won't be a silver bullet. And on that, I think I actually reflect fairly closely Kemi's position. I will see what the review comes up with, because the review's also designed to make sure that if the decision is to leave the ECHR, how we might do that and what the repercussions would be. I'm going to let the process run its course and see what the Shadow Attorney General comes up with.
It's lovely to have you back on the show and talking in this position. In our job, it's sometimes quite hard to get viewers interested in reshuffles of the government, let alone shadow reshuffles of shadow cabinets. What do you think you'll bring to this? Because I think you might say that you're not going to go toe-to-toe with Angela Rayner in that way, but it's been heavily briefed that that's what you'd be relishing. And will you be able to bring some policies that people feel clear about? Because that's what we get from our comments. What do the Conservatives stand for now?
So I know Angela Rayner very well. We were elected at the same time. I think she's formidable. I think anybody who has worked their way up through a political party from the start in life that she had has got to be respected. I think if more of her Labour colleagues respected her, they might do better themselves. So yes, I look forward to sparring with her, but mainly the reason that after a bit of a breather after the last general election, the reason that I've agreed to come back into the shadow cabinet is because this Labour government is failing at such a pace. I want to play a part in highlighting their failure and also putting forward credible alternatives. Now, we're not going to lay out all of our stall all at once, but there are some foundation stones. We've got to get back to being an entrepreneurial, lower tax economy. We've got to...
let's stop you there. Let's just do one. How? What is your policy then to do that one thing you just said as your first point?
OK, well, let's take one. This is not the entirety of this plan, but let's take our welfare budget, for example. Post-pandemic, our welfare budget went through the roof. It is totally, completely unsustainable. I said that during the leadership campaign, as did Kemi. Kemi set about a very credible plan of how we start reducing that welfare bill. The Labour Party in government initially agreed with us that the welfare bill had to come down and then buckled at the first hurdle. So not only are they not going to bring the bill down, they are going to increase it significantly. And they were followed into the division lobbies by all the other parties in Westminster. So the Conservatives are the only party that is serious about reducing the cost of government and therefore reducing the taxes on hard-working British people. And we know that Rachel Reeves this autumn is going to have to put taxes up because she is writing cheques that the British economy cannot cash. And look, that's just one example. So the Conservative Party will be credible and careful with public money. We will look at ways of making sure that we unlock the potential of the British people rather than having the drag anchor of an excessive tax burden. And that's just one of the examples. There'll be others that will come between now and the next set of elections. And we're going to make sure in the department that I'm shadowing, we're going to make sure we hold Labour to account for their failure to even start delivering on their promise of more homes for young people. And worse than that, their attitude, the mask slipped when the Prime Minister was in front of the liaison committee and said airily, oh, there are plenty of homes for asylum seekers. Well, that's news to the young people trying to get on the housing ladder because Labour has spectacularly failed to abide by its promise of building more homes for young people.
Thank you very much indeed, James Cleverly. Good to get back to housing. I thought you were auditioning to be Shadow Chancellor a moment ago, talking about tax policy, but back on message. And we look forward to talking to you regularly over the coming weeks and months. Thank you for coming on our programme.